G'day, we're here with Domi from Dulami Designs.
Do
Dulamai Designs in Toowoomba. He was the lead artist on the Dreamtime Journey Coach at Downsteam. Would you be able to give us a little background about the carriage?
yeah, I was asked to do the train carriage in 2012, just to so that we could. They wanted an Indigenous style carriage. They had ideas, but I sat down with them, and when I first got there, and they said, "What are you going to do? Can you give us an idea?" And I said, "It's all in my head. I could see the sunrise and sunset, which is a very spiritual time for Indigenous people." But anyway, I started. It took me 5 months to do it, but I think the whole purpose of the Dreamtime carriage is to so that I think it is that people can see the dreaming and not just they have a visual aid rather than just hearing it as words and seeing like circles and dots and stuff like that. I just wanted people to have that visual aspect of it. See. I think sometimes seeing something visually makes something react in your mind a bit better, and you understand things. And I just wish people could see the dreaming how I see it in my mind, and that's what I do when I paint. Is that I just like to show it that it's an interesting thing, and the stories that come with it are so important too, because they are the laws that Indigenous people live by, and they understand. They're things that and it's very layered Indigenous stories, in the fact that there may be a reason, but there's also a law in there, and there's different things that you have to follow so that you don't end up like that, and a lot of things like that. Yeah, it was a very good time for me. I found it to be something that about like I think I said before. My grandmother always used to say the only time Indigenous people ever look down on anybody is when we're reaching down to help them up. And I think that's something that we need to keep doing as Australians, and we do. We're a beautiful bunch of people. But like I say, the Indigenous culture it's not Indigenous culture, it's Australia's prehistory culture. And all Indigenous people, and also white people, or any person that's Australian should appreciate it. But it's ours. I think I said this before, when we say Happy Australia Day, we should be saying Happy 60,000 years of Australia Day. Because there's a lot of history in Australia prior to Captain Cook coming. And I think we need to accept that, like we're talking 50, 60,000 years, but like I said to you before, Lake Munga, we had Munga Man, that goes back 100,000 years. They carbon dated him, so who knows how long Aboriginal people have been here, or people living in this beautiful country, And I think it's interesting that we have such a strong culture, but it's not written, and I think that's the downfall. But the only record we have is art, carvings and art, and I think Indigenous art is the oldest form of cultural expression anywhere in the world. I think we need to accept that, and we should be very proud. All Australians should be proud that that we come from a country where there's paintings that that are older than the Egyptian pyramids, stuff that it's incredible. And then you got Rio Tinto going over there in Western Australia, blowing up caves where people have been living there for 40,000 years, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Aboriginal history," but it's human history. It's not Aboriginal history. That's all of us. That belongs to all of us. If you're born in this country, you're an Indigenous person to Australia. So that belongs to you. If they went over and blew up Stonehenge, can you imagine what the world would do? Mate, they cried when Notre Dame burnt down. That's only 1,000 years old. Yet a cave was blown up where people... And if you look at the two photos, you see the first photo of it pristine, and you see inside where archaeologists have been digging, and they've got it all marked out. Next thing, it's just completely devastated. And I just think they got a $250 million fine plus more to come, but they still made a profit last year, so that's pretty sad, ain't it, when you think of it. But getting back onto the Dreamtime carriage, the reason why I found it such a good link is because, like, a lot of the railway lines that are made in Australia were worked and constructed by Indigenous workers. So, and because Indigenous people don't have cars, and trains were a big source of getting around in this country by Indigenous people. I think that's another thing that's lost. So I seen the link there. Anyway, when I first got asked, I went and seen the local elders, and because I'm not from country, this is all Jagera, Durable, Jarawa, Waka Waka country. I'm a Kalkadoon man. I'm up near Mount Isa way, so I had to make sure that I wasn't disrespecting the local mob here. And I spoke to Uncle Darby McCarthy, he was alive at the time, and Auntie Pearl, she was alive, and Auntie Beryl. They all asked them, I said, what do you think I should do? And they pretty much all in unison said, if it's going to promote Indigenous culture, First Nation people, then do it.
Yeah.
You know, I just think people got to realise that, you know, whenever you go to a barbecue or you're serving people, like Sam Pekovich, whatever his name is, got that lamb ad, and if he goes, someone's at the barbecue and he goes, okay, who was here first? And then you see all the black fellas put their hands up, we were. And I think we can laugh about it, but that's how it is. It's just showing respect that there were people here before you, that's all. We didn't own the land, but we had our tribal areas. But it's just the way things were done, and our mob fought, Kalkadoon fought with, like I said to you, with the local establishment. There was a big battle there. These stories aren't told, but Aboriginal people pushed back. You know, so it's really interesting to see that. You know, so it's interesting that we pause for a sec. Mm-hmm. Just doing an interview, mate. Can you give us who was it? Sorry, my brother. So yeah, basically, I think the most important thing is that we've got to start accepting that you know, this is all of ours, not just one. You know, and I think the train carriage is that sort of avenue for that sort of thing. I just want people to start accepting that. You know, when you talk about the Dreamtime, you're talking about something very special to Indigenous people. It's something, and I think I just want to share that with everybody. Sometimes seeing how people do their artwork and it's all flat and it's just like X-ray vision and not telling a story, you wouldn't pick it out. But if you look at the Dreamtime carriage, you can walk in and you can actually see from the sunrise to sunset. It's telling a story. You know,
it's a journey. One end is the sunrise and all the sunrise colours.
Both and spiritual parts of the day, as I said to you before.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to accept that. It's the one time when you can sit down and contemplate and look, and it just makes you think. Well, that's our dreaming. That's our time when we dream. Most of my paintings have that sort of semi-sunset in it. So yeah, and I think it's really important. You know, so yeah, to me it's important anyway. I just want everybody to enjoy it. You know, when you hear a didgeridoo, that's our bagpipes. You know, that belongs to all of us. If you hear a didgeridoo going, you know you're in Australia. I had a friend of mine in Rome. He was walking through there before COVID hit, and he was walking through the markets there, and he heard this didgeridoo playing. He was it was Sunday morning, and he was homesick, and he went around the corner, and there was a bloke in the bloke in the bar was playing the didgeridoo. It wasn't even Aboriginal, and the next minute, 20 Australians turned up.
Yeah. All
white, and they all just couldn't believe that they heard the didgeridoo. But that's the call of Australia, you know what I mean? They just all turned up. And I don't care where you're born in the world, but if you're an Australian, mate, you hear a didgeridoo, you know you're in Australia, you know. So I just love that. That's important to me. I just love hearing that people are starting to really connect into who we are. We're all one, you know.
And to see it's all part of the same country's
everybody bitches
history.
about Australia Day. And it's only about 40 years old, Australia Day. And like, I don't know what the big concern about changing the date. We have a Queen's birthday gets changed everywhere, every day. But you know the one day that we celebrate, what's our national flower? The wattle, green and gold. We all cheer at the Olympics for green and gold. You know they have had a wattle day for about 100 and something years, and it's always September the 1st, the first day of spring. Wouldn't that be a great day to have Australia Day? And maybe we should start looking at things we've already were celebrating instead of trying to create something new. Like the 25th for us is the Sorry Day. That's a day before Australia Day, and it was because we weren't being acknowledged. But you know, it's a simple thing. And like I had one bloke, we thought it was July the 1st, and I'll wait till it goes out.
Yeah.
No, I always think that, we just need to, we've changed that many days for everything else. Had one bloke who thought it was June the 1st.
Yeah.
Wattle Day. And I said, no, it's September. But he said, I'm not getting up in the bloody cold to celebrate Australia Day. And I turned around and said, but you get up in the bloody cold to go celebrate Anzac Day.
Yeah.
What's the difference? So, but anyway, back onto the train carriage. I just think it's just a uniting of. I just want people to accept it and just to be connected to it. I've had many people come in here and just all loving it. But the one thing is that they really love about it is the fact that they can see the story.
Yeah.
Rather than to see the story, not just to see it flat. but they actually can actually feel like they're a part of it,
Connected to it.
connected to it, you know. And it tells a story, and like every culture in the world, all have a creation story, you know, and it's all linked into a great spirit, God, and how He created this and created that. And I always think it's just man's representation of who we are. It's more like folk stories, but each, like I said, each Aboriginal story has a message, and each one has a different thing. So, but other than that, look, it's probably one of the best experiences I've ever been involved with, and I think it's it's better. I've never put my hand out for 1 cent. I know there was people offering to do it for $40,000.
Yeah.
And that really upset me. That hurt me even more because I just think that it just shows that commercialisation, you know. And I just wanted. I was down on my luck when I did it, but I tell you what, the karma that comes from it is what like I said to you, only time you ever look down on anybody's when you're helping them up, you know. Like, they needed something different. And it's helped them through a lot. They actually benefited from it.
Definitely.
But the most important thing, I'll never ask 1 cent from that. That belongs to them, but it belongs to all Australians. And if it's going to leave a mark on this world, the one thing I want is the fact that I've left that for everybody. And who knows, in 100 years' time, someone might say I was a reasonable artist, eh?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's really interesting when you go through the museum, and because there's all the dark colours, because what you've got trains, and it's associated with the Industrial Revolution, with imperialism.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And you're
dark,
seeing
dark,
all those
then
links.
you get to my one, it's like bright colours, yeah.
That's right, and it's just amazing seeing.
Like I said to you before, my grandmother used to say, you know, if them old people could have went to a paint shop, they would have bought paints. Yeah. They would have bought colours, you know. And like I remember, I think I said just before to you about the bird tribe up near Woodford. They were a tribe of people that collected feathers, and they loved the colours, and they made headdresses out of it. Well, there's a couple of headdresses still left, but when the missionaries come in, they must have brought smallpox and they wiped them out.
Yeah.
So all that was gone. But it just supports my argument that colours were everywhere, you know. And Indigenous people would have seen colours, but they couldn't go to a shop and buy the colours. Like in Europe, they would have had all the different colours, you know. But what they had is what they had: yellow ochre, red ochre, white clay, black charcoal, and those were the primary colours that they could use. And they did what they did. People say to me, "Oh, but you know, these people say that there's, you know, these paintings on the wall are 40,000 years old, but ochre will fall off and wash away." Well, I've had a lot to do with dancers and helping them get the red ochre powder, which is ochre grounded down. And if you've seen that stuff put on, it stays on you, but it doesn't just wash out. It takes, like, I had to mop the floor after a troop went through, dancing troop, and we used 20 mop heads, and we still didn't get it on. And the next day you could see that red ochre film on the actual little light hitting it. And I got a T-shirt at home that I used that's still got red ochre on it, where bloke's touched me on the hand, on my chest like that, and that hand's still there after 10, 11, 12 years. And it went through about 1,000 washes. Mixed with animal fat, which is what they used to do, and put that on the wall. That'll last for thousands and thousands of years. I don't doubt that. I had a friend or a couple that just come into the gallery. They'd just come back from Western Australia, and they were up in the Kimberleys, and there's a mountain area there with just massive big boulders. And there's like animal etchings in it, and they're about maybe an inch thick in deep. Now he got a block very similar back at the motel we stayed and tried to do it, and it just left a white line on it. So that's thousands of years. Apparently each tribe had each family had its own totem, and they go and scratch it out. But that's thousands of years. Once again, you know, Aboriginal, Indigenous art's the oldest form of cultural expression. So anywhere in the world, I think it's not written. The only thing that's written is the artwork. And that tells the story. Where our mob is up there, Mount Isa way, I didn't say this to you before, but there's a rock face, and it tells when you come there, if you're another tribe walking through, which you're allowed to do, you notify them. You always say you're coming through, and you show respect. And it was never no one's land, but it was Kalkadoon were part of that land, or the Kukulungi, say up there in Cairns, Kukulungi. That's where they lived. That's where they hunted. That was their area to look after or be a part of. But as you walk through there, it would tell you on the wall what there's like 9 seasons in Indigenous culture, and like each one would tell you pretty much what time's good for eating emu eggs, what time's good to hunt kangaroos, They're pretty much all you were. Certain times you couldn't, but they also tell you where the birthing trees were, where men couldn't go. Also where initiation sites, where women couldn't go. So it pretty much described everything. So art became like the braille for the blind.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that people could walk up to. You didn't need to speak their language. You could see the stories.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't realise that in art wasn't just paintings, but it told a story about the land, what foods were available, what was there, what time of the year. So it always had a reason. So and then message sticks were sent around. Tribes could understand the messages on the stick, so that would be transported all the way around. So yeah, art was very strong, and it had an integral part of Indigenous culture. It wasn't just like in Europe; they became paintings on the wall. They were a form of communication, a form of telling the story, like I said, and also letting the next one know where food was, what the best time. So there's always a reason. I think that's the most important thing about Indigenous art is that it's that we're not
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Yeah. But anyway, like I said, getting back to the Dreamtime carriage, I think the most important thing is that everybody, you get the opportunity to see something through my eyes. I'm trying to tell the story of a dream. And everybody that's gone to it has all agreed that they've got something really special out of it. It was a very special experience. Had one old lady come in and she said she cried when she went on there. She got all teary-eyed and sat there because she hadn't seen anything like that before. And I think that's the thing that I wanted. Artwork will always polarise the community. It's either people are going to like it or it becomes a conflict. Some of the artworks of some artists can be really can like polarise a country to the point where is it art or is it pornography or is it political or is it pornography or is it just a human form? And that's the whole idea of art. That's a European style. But with Indigenous art, it's about telling a story, but also, like I said before, it's not a written language. Art became a visual thing for people to understand things.
Yeah.
And I think we lose that when you see Indigenous art. You sort of think it's like a European style. It was for
to be looked
aesthetics.
at.
Look, it's beautiful. Whereas Indigenous art had a meaning. That's why in my artwork I always try to layer it. If you go on the carriage, you'll see a painting, but behind it you'll see other images in behind it because it's layered. It tells a story. You know what I mean? So just so you know too, my totem was Dulamai. That's why we call it Dulamai designs. Dulamai means thunder in my grandmother's language. I think I was called that because I was a noisy little bugger, but she passed it on to me. But it's the same as Gamilaroi. Gamilaroi use Dulamai too, and they say storm. So you can see there's a connection between the languages. But it's a privilege to be been given that opportunity to paint that carriage. Like I said, I asked the local elders here in Toowoomba, and they all really wanted me to do it because, like I said, if it's going to promote First Nation people, then so be it. But I think we all need to accept that. That there've been people here for thousands of years. It's not hard, but it's just respecting it and just no one's asking for that. We don't want a throne to sit on and be. We just want recognition that Indigenous people want to be heard. And it's changing, and it's beautiful to see the change. I love the fact that every TV show opens up with, they'd like to thank First Nations people, the country that we're living on. ABC is Gamilaroi, I think it was the Gamilaroi tribe. They always promote it in the news. I just think that Welcome to Country is so important, and I think that's the most important, that we need to keep doing that. I'd like to see the national anthem sung in two parts like New Zealand, like I said before. They've got their act together. They introduced the language into schools in the 1970s, and from then it just went from there. In 1999 at a World Cup game against the All Blacks, once they started singing the national anthem in two parts, and it just went on from there. We've done it with, like I said, the Wallabies game, with singing Uru, which is an Indigenous language in New South Wales, and also English. I think there's a connection there. I don't want it to be a political. I didn't want it to be a political thing, because it's never anything to do with Indigenous culture is political. It's always going to be political. I just wanted it to be this final click in getting all Australians to appreciate what we have here. You've got a beautiful, beautiful culture that's been going on. It's been tried to be wiped out. We can't say it hasn't been. Forced assimilation and all this, but it's still strong, and it should be something that all Australians should be very proud of. It just shows the tenacity of the Australian. Fight when you're down and keep fighting, and that's Australian, I think all Australians should be proud of the fact that Indigenous people have soldiered on and can still get up and shake a leg and play a didgeridoo and, do paintings and stuff like that. I think that's what we should be at. I think we should be all proud of the fact, even though we've been kicked in the butt and all that, but we're still here.
Yeah.
What shape, or form, My grandmother used to say, don't matter what colour skin you are, what you look like, it's like a cup of tea. She said, you can have a black cup of tea, you can have a brown cup of tea, you can have a creamy cup of tea, and you can have a white cup of tea. Still a cup of tea. And that's how Indigenous people, we see ourselves, And before 1967, I remember my cousin, I don't remember, but I remember mother was black father was an Irishman, but the daughter was blonde haired, blue eyed, looked like a northern lady from the northern Europe, but she still was Aboriginal.
Mm.
And that's the thing today that Aboriginal people find a struggle, is the fact that as an Aboriginal person that we struggle with the fact that you've got to prove who you are now.
Mm.
Before 1967, if your family had black grandmother, even you were black, so that became a shameful thing. That's why a lot of people didn't declare it. But now it seems to be everybody's got a black grandmother or a black grandfather, and people are more accepting. And I think that's that transition towards accepting Indigenous culture as ours. Is that a lot of people have got Indigenous heritage that for a long time were told they didn't.
Mm.
And now they're not ashamed. Because my friend always says this, you don't have to be ashamed because we're all the same. And it's just an Indigenous joke that we do, So I think it's important that, but that's linking it back in. I know it sounds, it's probably something silly, but that's my whole plan of that Dreamtime Carriage was that we all take it on and be proud of what we've got. No more fighting about it, saying it's us, them. It's all ours. We should be proud of that. So.
Yeah, I think everyone who goes to the museum is thankful that not only they get to experience the Dreamtime Carriage on its own, but they get to see like those links between Australia with the trains and the railway and Australia with the Indigenous.
Well, like I said before, Indigenous people laid the train tracks. A lot of the train tracks around this country are done by Indigenous people, and they were hard workers, mate. And if you go anywhere out to Queensland, you'll see most of the tracks. That was probably the only work they could get. You know what I mean? Before, and it's sad though, but there's a link between Indigenous culture and the train tracks. The fact that they helped build this country with them, But then they end up using it because a lot of them didn't have cars, so the trains were easy transport for them, and they could get on them and go anywhere and meet their cousins and that. But yeah, as long as they went on a reserve, mate, as long as they were working, they could prove they had a job, they could go anywhere in Queensland. That's pretty good going, when you think about it. So.
Yep.
But the trains were a connection, bloodline for a lot of Indigenous people. So, like I said, cheap, easy way to travel. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for your time
you're welcome
today.
anytime. You're right. No problem.
And that one there.
Did it say that?